Hey Muse, it's me. Oh yeah, look. Every so often this happens. When you're writing a godzillion amount of words every year, the old tendonitis flares up and yeah. So, pain, insufferable pain. The struggle is real for writers. That's not what I'm going to talk about. So, um, recently I started watching this show called Woke. It's on Hulu. It's a great show. It stars Lamorne Morris from New Girl, and he's killing it. Great show. You should watch it. But the first episode of that show inspired me for this conversation with you, Muse. So, Lamorne Morris plays a cartoonist. He writes comic strips. And at some point in the first episode, he comes to a realization. And he has an artistic awakening. And that is what I want to talk about. Every artist, this is my opinion, of course. Every artist should have an awakening. And in some cases, a reawakening. Now, I could tell you from my perspective how this occurred. My first awakening as an artist came really early on. I don't remember what grade it was, but it was like 4th or 5th grade. And one of my teachers, I think we had 2, decided that the class was going to put on a play. And they decided to do Jack and the Beanstalk. Well, my name's Jack, obviously. So they decided that I was going to play Jack. And I think there were maybe 3 or 4 other characters in this little play. And it only took a minute, not even a hot minute, just a minute for this, for the artist inside of me to wake up. Because what happened during this play was we all had our lines, right? And I'm playing Jack. And during the performance of this play, I have something in my eye. I didn't have something in my eye during the performance. Well, I may have. It was a long time ago. But during the performance of this play, I decided that my lines weren't good enough. So I decided at that early age to improvise my lines. That went over really well with the kids, with my fellow students. Not so much with the teacher, because she was teaching a lesson. And my lines, my improvised lines, didn't quite stick to the lesson plan. That was the awakening of me as an artist. And since then, I have had a number of reawakenings. Pour exemple. Way back in undergraduate school, not quite as far back as elementary school, but in undergraduate school, we did a production of Amadeus, and I played Mozart. During one of the performances of that production, I had an out-of-body experience while on stage. I had somehow connected so deeply to that character that I effectively had become Mozart. Not literally. You know what I'm talking about. But during this out-of-body experience, and whether you believe this or not is beside the point, because it happened to me. During this out-of-body experience, all of a sudden, I was watching me from above playing Mozart. And it was profound. Because at that moment, during undergraduate school, my education was subpar, which is one of the reasons why I went to graduate school. But I realized during that performance that it is possible to develop such a profound connection with a character that things like out-of-body experiences can happen. And that was my first reawakening as an artist. That I realized that we can connect very, very deeply to our art. And in fact, that level of connection to the art is necessary. I'm not talking about the out-of-body experience. I'm talking about the profound connection to the craft. Now, I've had other reawakenings as an actor, one of them being and I know I talk about this a lot, but it's because it was very special to me. One of those reawakenings was when when I was in the production of Cabaret. I played the MC. Prior to that production, I really didn't think that I could do musicals. Not to the level that I needed to be able to do them. That show proved to me, it reawakened my love for musical theater and proved to me that I could do it. Now, I had awakenings as my first awakening as a writer. I think it came much later in my life. But there was an awakening that I had in high school that sort of clued me in on this love for writing. And I'll tell you what that was. I was working at a gas station, at one of the old-timey gas stations where the attendant would come out and fill your tank up, wipe your windows down, take your money. Well, obviously business wasn't always bustling. While it was down, I decided I had just fallen in love with the band The Tubes. This was back in the 80s. And I realized at some point that some of their music made me think about a play that we had just read in literature class. And that play was A Midsummer Night's Dream. Especially their song, Fantastic Delusion. So I set upon myself to write the musical version of Midsummer Night's Dream using the music of The Tubes. Now, obviously nothing ever happened to that because, one, I was in high school. Two, because legally I couldn't use the music of The Tubes without their permission. So, never happened. I don't even have anything that I had written on that. It's gone. It's way gone. It's probably on some scraps of paper that had been recycled, burned, whatever. That was my awakening as a writer. My reawakening happened in graduate school. Interesting theme there. During grad school, me and some friends, some very close friends that were all in the theater department, decided that we were going to put a role-playing group together, and we played Vampire the Masquerade. And we played that same game for 2 years, I think, at which time I became fairly close to the character that I was playing. His name was Don Giancarlo. Well, after graduate school, the very first thing that happened to me after graduate school is I was whisked away to American Players Theater to work there. I got lucky. Not lucky. I auditioned my ass off for that role, for that summer gig. And while I was there, I was still missing that character. So I decided that I would write a story about him. When I started writing that story, it reawakened my love for writing. Now, I think that I've had other reawakenings as a writer. One of them was when I wrote the first Shiro book, and I realized that humor was a very powerful tool in my toolbox that I could use, and I was very lucky that I knew how to use it. Because some writers don't actually have the sense of humor to allow them to add humor to their books on a successful level. Shiro showed me that I could do that. I think the next reawakening came probably when I wrote the Reaper series. It was either the Reaper series or Suicide Station. I don't even remember which one of those came first. I think maybe it was Suicide Station. But I realized that what I realized was that romance was actually a powerful trope. I know. Up until that point, I was a horror writer. Pretty much straight up horror writer. That's all I wanted to write. It's the only thing I believed that I could connect to. And then I wrote Suicide Station. And in that book is a romance. And I actually enjoyed writing it. It was very quirky, very strange, but I enjoyed writing it. And all of a sudden, I had a new color with which to paint. And it opened up my world. And that led me to be able to write things like Defying Gravity and Hopetown and the Reaper series. Now, I know that my reawakening is not done. And I hope that at some point I will have a reawakening that is far more profound than the others that I have had as a writer. I believe that there is a revolution to be had that will start with us fiction writers. And I want to be part of it. And I think there was a very small revolution that happened thanks to the Kindle and indie publishing. But that's not the end game. I think there's something bigger, something better, and something more profound to happen. Just like way back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, when the Beat Poets, when Kerouac and his compadres were first writing and they were first developing this new style. That was a revolution. And it was one that was so necessary. We all, as artists, must be open to those reawakenings. Because if we aren't, we are destined to repeat the same things we have done over and over and over again. And yes, you can grow without a reawakening, but your growth is going to be limited. You want your soul, your very soul, to awake to the possibilities. Because we create new universes. We create worlds and people. We make things happen in ways that reality can't. And on top of which, we help people to vanish from reality for a temporary period of time. And right now, this year, 2020, everyone needs an escape. And right now is a great time for your reawakening as an artist. Let it happen. Seek it out. Be open to be awakened by something, some profound thing inside of you that could start a new movement, that could start a revolution. I know that there are great things waiting for all of us artists. We just have to be willing and open to accepting those great things, those revolutions, those awakenings. Are you with me? Let's all start a revolution. Wake up, artists. Wake up. Because those awakenings, my friends, are awesome.